Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another broadcast here, a fast break here for High Sports Radio, your Drake Follow Sports. On tonight's show, we'll discuss all things March Madness, NCAA Tournament. We're going to break everything down best we can. Wild games are going on as we speak. Are the number one seeds invincible right now? We'll discuss that. Plus, St. John's beating Kansas in a big-time win. Can it make some noise against Duke next week? We'll discuss that as well. Plus, who's the favorite after this weekend? We'll dive into all that. And also, who will be at the women's side of the action as well. But this is Fast Break here live for High Sports Radio. Your Drake Follow Sports. Now, catch you on the other side after these short messages.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Get myself big. All right, what's good, everybody? What's good? What's good? What's good? This is the Crooks process. Davidson Crooks here to discuss all things NCAA tournament. We're gonna have a good show tonight. I think Locke is having some technical issues, so once he gets on, we'll get rock and rolling here. But if you're new to the show or watch on YouTube, like, share the show, comment, tell me what y'all think about the NCAA tournament thus far. If you're on X, comment within the show, within the show video. Comment your thoughts on it NCAA tournament so far, your likes, dislikes thus far of it. I got I don't say a lot of dislikes, but I got some things I get off my chest. So please give me those thoughts and we'll get rock and rolling here. Sometimes I know we're going like long and stuff like that and all that good stuff. I'm not gonna go long because Alabama plays at 8:45. So I ain't gonna go long. We ain't gonna go long tonight. It's not gonna be like a 2-hour plus show. So I'm trying to get in and out the best I can. If the Alabama game is late, I don't know why they got these East Coast games going late and the West Coast ones going so early. And it just like it's hustling backwards. Like you kind of look at the schedule. Past couple of days and the mid-side of days. Let's look at it. Let's see. So right now, okay, the later games for today. UConn, UCLA, late game, TNT. Utah State, Arizona, late game. On TNT, on True TV, excuse me. Alabama, 8:45, Texas Tech, playing Tampa, 8:45, 9:45 for the East Coast folks. What are we doing here? Right now, you got Tennessee, Virginia, close game right now. 68-66 in front of me right now, in which the damn thing froze up. And that's another thing I've been having a beef with. Florida, Iowa, 31-31, 33-31, Iowa, halftime on TBS. If I had one beef right now, I got to get this out the way. But if I got one beef right now with the tournament, is the scheduling. Scheduling and streaming, or however you're trying to watch it. I have beef with Paramount because you advertise to put the games on air Paramount, then you can't watch the games on Paramount. And then if some of y'all don't have this app, the March Madness app right here, that has like everything centralized, all that stuff for the NCAA tournament, where you can watch games at a moment's notice, all that good stuff. That's not working. I mean, if the game's on CBS, you can't watch on the CBS. You know what I'm saying? It makes you go straight to the Paramount app, and you can't watch on the Paramount app. Like, what are we doing here? So sometimes I like live streaming to the game stuff. I get my thoughts throughout the game, all that stuff. Or D-Lock does. I can't watch the game. I've been working all weekend. I can't watch the games on CBS or Paramount because it's not working. Same thing. And then here, at least with HBO, I catch the games, but sometimes the game frees. I don't say freeze up, but it frees up and stuff like that. You gotta go exit out and go back to the game and stuff like that. So it's just like these companies they want you to do streaming and all that stuff, all that jazz. But sometimes they don't get that crap together, but they want you to shout out more money, more money, more money, more money. If the Ellis is trying to take over this part of the entertainment section and everything, they gotta get the crap together. Because this is abysmal. Trying to watch a certain part of games, you can't even watch it. And lucky when I get home, I can catch CBS on my antenna. It'd be cool with it. So if I have one beef, let me put this up. If I have one beef so far, my big beef is like the streaming and all that stuff. The streaming gotta be better for all platforms. If you're trying to use this, NCAA tournament, NCAA March Madness app for the men's, all that stuff, you gotta make everything work. And plus, I remember when this app was for free. If y'all tell me, if y'all looking at this like years ago when they do this app, it was for free. You know what I'm saying? That app was for free. You can watch all the games like bam, bam, bam. Then this, you gotta sign up for your TV provider, all that stuff, and now then it got corporatized, and this kind of the fun kind of went away. But it is what it is. Like I said, over time, these streaming companies gotta get better how to do about things, and plus the scheduling too. Why are you spraying all these games out, by different game times? And usually in the round of 32, you still got these games kind of going in between each other, in a sense, overlapping. So that kind of went away in the round 32. Like every team got their own spot in different channels. So that kind of took me out because you should be wrapping up the final games here, starting at a little after 7 whatnot, and call it a night. Now you're not doing that, especially the East Coast folks. You ain't doing that until after 12 o'clock. Me, I'm Central Time, but hell, same difference. A little after 11 o'clock. And some of y'all who are fans of college basketball and watch the Players era tournament, y'all know how that feeling was, staying up late to watch your teams. With me, Alabama had to stay up late to watch their games. They did coming on like at 12 o'clock at night. What are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? Hey, Terry, how you doing? Yeah, I'm going to get to that too. Bill Self, I don't know. Just sometimes, Coach, it was a strategy, but it's like, you got to put in your head, it's like, don't let the easy shit happen. I'll get to that in a second. But right now, I got Virginia and Tennessee in front of me with a Virginia player I can see took a wild shot, but lucky that got the ball back, and then he threw another wild shot because the shot clock went down, and there's 2 bad shots by a ball-headed player for Virginia. Number 6. So number 6 for Virginia. Let me get his name right here. Pull it up real quick. Jakari White. So Jakari White threw 2 damn air balls right there to make a shot clock violation. But other than that, my first and only fault of the tournament, very solid games, very good games, a lot of good reception for the most part. But I think one thing that's kind of, I won't say faded, but kind of thing that, that really didn't pop off like it used to in years is the Cinderella era fading. Now, Davidson, what do you mean by that? Well, the Cinderella era, you had upsets from the 12th seed and below. But that didn't really happen too much, didn't happen too much this year. Statistically, only 4 double-digit seeds winning their first round games. This was the lowest total since 2007. 2007. 1 year post I graduated from high school. So that's a very long time. And a lot of upsets that happened along the way. And those teams that won those games were, pull it up right here. Pull it up right here. It's all in Thursday action. Texas beat BYU 79-71. Big time win for them, despite AJ DeMista having 35 points in that matchup. 35 points, 10 rebounds for him. 1 for 7 for 3-point land, one of his best shooting from out there. But 35 points for him, the potential number 1 overall pick in the upcoming 2026 draft. For the Longhorns, 23 points for Falcatides, if I pronounced that correctly. 16 rebounds for him, strong performance for him. 19 points for Trademark Mark as well. And then Swaim had 14 points as well for the Longhorns on that point. Texas, you can't really say they're a Cinderella because, it's Texas. And Texas got a lot of money, and you really can't call Texas a Cinderella because it's Texas. And probably would spit on that notion that you're calling them a Cinderella. Then you had Texas A&M. They beat St. Mary's 63-50. And Bucky Millen's first year in Texas A&M and first win as a coach in the tournament. So 22 points for Aggie, who had some questionable shots towards the end in that. Questionable shots towards the end, but they won the game. For the Gales, 18 points for Dent. 15 off the bench for Campbell for St. Mary's, but couldn't get a job done against Bucky McMillan and crew. Then the other double-digit seed that won, VCU over North Carolina, 82-78. With North Carolina having a 19-point lead at one point in the second half. A 19-point lead. Let me pull that up real quick. VCU stunned North Carolina 82-78. Overtime completing at 19 points. Second half comeback, the largest first round comeback in March Madness history. $19 points. If North Carolina would have won that game, we won't talk about Hubert Davis. I guess I'm getting out of the way, but talk about Hubert Davis, maybe Hubert Davis losing his job. And then you get to overtime. Like, they couldn't buy a bucket. Missed layups. I know contested layups, stuff like that, but they couldn't buy a bucket. Could not buy a bucket if you're North Carolina. Could not buy a bucket. So for Hubert Davis, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with him. VCU trailed like 38-20 in the early and second half. They outscored them, UNC 47-36 in the second half, 7-3 in overtime. And like I said, both teams won. I mean, it was tight back and forth, all that stuff, but they just couldn't prevail. Terrence Hill had an excellent game for VCU. Scored 34 points, 7-10 for 3-point land. Hit the setback game winner, 50 seconds left at OT to seal the deal. Shout out to Martelli. They won in that big time match. Now, granted, they lost in the they lost Saturday, but to beat North Carolina, to beat Hubert Davis, possibly at the door, that's a win-win. And I gotta get this go on, get this out the way. The latest news is this about Hubert Davis. Let me pull my French here. Hubert Davis is widely reported as unlikely to return to UNC's head coach following historic collapse versus VCU and back-to-back first-round NCAA exits. So I had Neil on the show a couple weeks ago and talked about Carolina basketball and all that, a little bit of Duke. And we talked about Hubert Davis and what he has to do, what North Carolina has to do to kind of win the championship, all that stuff. And one thing was brought up, if he kind of underperforms in the NCAA tournament, what was going to happen? Would they keep him for another year? Would they get rid of him? And it's really kind of hard to say, what would they do, because, give another shot. Do you consider not having Caleb Wilson in the fold for the tournament to kind of make a push? If you had Caleb Wilson, throughout the rest of the year, didn't get hurt in practice, all this stuff, where your seating would be different. So, with Hubert Davis, all those things kind of came to mind. But, losing a 19-point lead like you did not go into factor into things. And the way he kind of lost games this year kind of put a lot of pressure on him. The fans were on him, the fan base on him. And God knows, what boosters and alumni kind of say, hey, man, what's up with Hubert? Yeah, I got a guess right here. Let's see. How you doing, Mr. Freddie B?
Hey, Davidson, what's happening, man?
Not much. Just kind of going down the list, talk about the tournament real quick. Talking about, the Cinderella. Is the Cinderella era dead in terms of upsets, all that good stuff? Talking about a little bit the VCU North Carolina game, and also Hubert Davis. Maybe he's on.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I mean,
maybe.
That was a terrible loss for Carolina in that fashion. That program has been known to be so good for a while, and then to blow that game the way that they did was horrible.
Yeah, to the chat, Marcus. Shout out to Marcus. Thank you for joining in. Marcus saying, NIL has killed Cinderellas. I have to agree with that. I think, with NIL, I think more the transfer portal than anything. Because if a lot of those guys bouncing around, moving around, stuff like that, you're not hearing the stories of guys staying at Oral Roberts for 4 years, St. Peter's, who else I can think of? St. Mary's, all the, other type of schools, Lloyd Marion. You get my feeling.
Oh yeah.
But those guys that you ain't hearing no stories. These guys staying like 4 years to kind of play their college career and they're going about their business, or if they happen to make an NBA or whatever, they go about that. You're not hearing those stories. I think it's just more the transfer portal because if you think about it, a lot of these guys in the mid-majors, they come play mid-majors a couple of years, get their feet wet, they make the NCAA tournament, have a strong showing. Now you got these big Power 4 schools come look at you to fill roster spots or feel, hey, I got a nice recruiting class here. I can get this nice veteran in a sense, to kind of fill a hole either at like point guard, on the wing, or down low. So Marcus' point, does the NIL money killed it? In a sense, yeah, they're going along the transfer portal, but I think, me and D-Log talked about this all the time after the show about NIL and the transfer portal. A lot of these kids that go in the transfer portal is being the transfer portal. And I think this is where we're at right now. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the transfer portal is I'm not a huge fan of that. We've seen a lot of great programs lose a lot of their players. It's really all come down to who's got the most money, and a lot of these guys are making more money than they would if they were to go out and try to play, not necessarily in the NBA, but overseas or something like that. They're getting more money just to stick around and play an extra year or two of college. For a perfect example is here in to where I live in Southern California, Cal State Fullerton. My dad was a Cal State Fullerton alum, and I went to games there since I was a kid. Followed the program religiously on basketball. This year they had one returning player and 15 freshmen, and they turned around a program that was one of the worst in the country last year to making it to the conference semifinal game. And one of their players, was a transfer. Like I mentioned the last week's show, he'll be playing tonight. Latrell Wrightsell, he's at Alabama. You see a lot of guys moving. I think it's worse for college football than it is for college basketball, because there are so many D1 schools in college basketball, over 320 schools, I think it is, versus like 130 for football. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it. I get the guys need to be paid, but think about it. Those top coaches, like I just watched the 30 for 30 documentary on John Calipari a few nights ago. And that he had his players being paid for quite a while. But yeah, not a huge fan. I think it's kind of I think long are the days of like the Carolinas and some of those other schools that were huge powerhouses for a long time. They're not going to be as competitive anymore. You can get some same great talent that would be coming off a bench at a Big Five school like that and going to play at a smaller university.
Yeah, Mark had a follow-up comment. I'll read that real quick. The transfer portal has stretched out talent. The days of Alabama, Kentucky having a bench
Exactly.
first round talent is over. Yeah. I mean, we've seen that. Like these kids, most of them bounce around and all that stuff. They don't stick in one place if they're not projected to go to the first round of the NBA draft. If they ain't liking their situation at said school, they up and bounce, or wherever's going on with the coaching staff or the coaches having to leave. One of those three things. So this is where we at right now.
Yeah.
And seems like right now Tennessee may close it out against Virginia.
Yep.
And Tennessee just now committed a stupid foul while being up right now. So
yeah, Virginia, great comeback, but they've kind of lost it here in the last minute.
Bad shots by I didn't catch the player's name, but he had a bald head for Virginia, just throwing up bad shots.
Yeah.
Not finishing layups here for the last 10 seconds by Virginia. They're down by 5 with 11 seconds left to go. So Virginia's at the line right now.
I didn't have Virginia going, I don't think, beyond the Sweet 16.
I did. This is like,
how is your bracket doing?
which one?
Your best one.
Yeah, let me pull that out. For those that know, or I got the March Madness app right here. I got like several brackets, all that stuff right here. I
Nice.
did. According and plus the one we did for IE Sports Radio. Let me check which one of my best ones. So
you know what? I think I did my whole bracket for IE Sports Radio, and I don't think I ever submitted it because I didn't see it in there. But I could move. I can probably move it from the other one I'm in and put it into there.
Let's see. Yeah, I have Virginia. Well, damn. I have Virginia going to the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have Virginia going to the Elite Eight. And then I had to beat Iowa State in the Sweet 16, which Iowa State won today against Kentucky very handily, which I ain't surprised about that.
Yeah, Iowa State looked good.
And then, Michigan looked very good, especially in the second half against St. Louis yesterday. So I got them going to the Final Four on this side of things. And then Alabama, for some odd reason, let me ask you thoughts on this as I speak about Alabama playing 8:45. What do you think about the schedule so far? Because on Saturday and Sunday schedule, they stretch the games out. Yeah, CBS games early in the day, then everybody else, TNT and True TV, all that stuff, got the late ones. What do you think about the schedule so far? And do you like it being stretched out like this?
Yeah, I like it. It's gone from, I think, the first game like 9:30 local time here on the West Coast, and then the last game tipping off right before 7:00. Yeah, I like it. A little bit of an overlap. I think they could have put another game on maybe in the morning and really focused like on two games, two big games at night, and like two every couple hour or so. But because we're gonna have right now we have the second half of Iowa, Florida, and then Utah State and Arizona, and then we go to the UCLA and Alabama games. Yeah, I like it stretched out. It's great. Just give me college basketball all day long. It doesn't matter what time it is. I could watch it in the morning, and then we still have our night games. For you on the East Coast, these games are getting kind of late, especially on a Sunday night.
Yeah, especially for my team that plays plays in an hour. So it's like, what are we doing here? And I just didn't like. I didn't like that part. It's like, damn, why are we putting you got this group in Tampa? Why are you putting them so late? And then you got the San Diego games stuff going early and all that stuff. It didn't make no sense, in my humble opinion. And seemed like and that's it. Virginia has lost the game to Tennessee 79-72. So the Vols are going to the Sweet 16. The lone team in the state of Tennessee going to the Sweet 16. After Vanderbilt got bounced in a very exciting game against Nebraska yesterday, excuse me. So the Vols going to the Sweet 16. They will go to face Iowa State in the next round.
That's another Sweet 16 for Rick Barnes.
Yes. So another Sweet 16 for Rick Barnes. I know some Tennessee fans kind of want to push him out the door, but I mean he's been steady. No Final Four for the Tennessee Vols yet in the men's side, but we'll see if they get.
You know what? That actually, they're in a pretty good spot with that win there. Tennessee's got a chance. I mean, if they could play the same type of game that they did against Virginia here and kind of lead from start to finish against Iowa State, I think I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee can maybe pull an upset out and probably, be the highest seeded team to advance into the Elite Eight. I think they could possibly knock off an Iowa State team.
They possibly can. If you look ahead, the matchup, let's look ahead. If I can look ahead here. Three-pointers, Iowa State is 38% in making 3 points made throughout the season. The Vols are better again at the free throw line, but they shoot 69%, which drives me nuts. And Iowa State shoots 67% from the free throw line, which drives me nuts as well. I always say in basketball, Freddie, if you ain't shooting at least 7% each game, you're shooting bad. I always say that about basketball. I teach my kids that, just shoot 70% because you don't know how the flow of the game goes.
Exactly.
If you're shooting poorly from the free throw line, then
especially these are elimination games. You can stretch out the last 2-3 minutes of a game and into like a 30-minute mini game with the amount of free throws and fouling. And you gotta, we've seen some teams come back because a team couldn't clinch it by hitting their free throws. Very important as you get closer to championship. You got to be hitting free throws. It's so critical at this stage.
And then I got Playman 92. He says, Davidson, thoughts on Kevin Willard, the Villanova head coach, talking about firing his coaches as an Nova diehard. That's not my type of thing that you say.
No, I don't say.
I don't know why he said it in the heat in the moment. Freddie is just like,
I don't know. I guess he said maybe, I don't know. Did he say it was a joke? I don't know.
He said it in the presser that he was just kidding, but like, come on, man. Like you're at Villanova. You took over for Cal Neptune, who I'm still disappointed that they didn't work out better. But anyways,
you
left Maryland, in the black and 9 to go to Villanova. You got them back up right, but for Clayman here, there's not really assurance in comments that you want your coach to say in the heat of the tournament, in which your team, let me pull where they at. Your team lost to Utah State, 86-76 by double digits. A Utah State team that right now they're playing against Arizona, 4 straight NCAA tournaments. So a strong team in Utah State that you could not take lightly and worry about silly things to kind of take your sake out the game. So to your comment, it was dumb.
Very dumb.
And then the press conference, he's trying to shake it off, but it already went viral.
If I'm the AD, I'm probably looking right now to see who's available, just in case this thing goes sideways, because that could be detrimental to your obviously your coaching staff. Say that some of those guys didn't take it lightly; they didn't think it was a joke. And then what does it say about your players as well? The guys who have fought, and played so hard for that entire staff. Joking or not, that's a stupid comment to make.
And right now, Florida is down double digits, 51-39 to Iowa.
Good.
So, Florida.
Sorry, Marcus.
Was
that Marcus's team? Is Florida?
No, Marcus's team is Duke.
Duke. Oh, okay.
D-Locke, he graduated from Florida State, but he's a big Gator fan.
Okay.
So, and also he went to Tennessee too, but he loves Florida Gators. So they're down right now, 51-49 right now.
Jay Wright would have been nice.
Back to this real quick. I got it. Your thoughts on potentially Hubert Davis being let go, and who should they target? I got somebody in mind, which I'm gonna hate to say, but I'll let you go ahead.
Oh, I honestly don't know right now who North Carolina should be targeting. Who is it that you have in? I mean, do you think they can get Mark Few from Gonzaga?
I think he's so like enriched in there and got his roots in there up in Spokane. I don't see him leaving.
Right.
And then, yeah, I don't see him leaving. I'm not saying he could, because hell, in football, what's his name? Kyle Willingham, he retired, and next thing you know, he's going to coach at
Yeah.
Michigan.
How funny would it be if they brought in Ryan Odom from VCU to replace Hubert Davis, who they just knocked out?
Come on. Odom Martelli, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. That's kind of hard. I don't know. But
Maybe John Schertz from St. Louis. That's another name that I've heard could be possible.
That's another possibility. But I think the number one name will probably be Nate Oates. And like I said,
okay,
from an hour now, when that ball tip gets that step, we'll see how things go. And that rumor mill will start running up on all that stuff. But Nate Oates, I pain to say that, because he's turned out this Alabama program into something, to like a perennial name in basketball terms.
Yeah.
But as y'all know, I watched the show over the years, Alabama's a football school.
Mm-hmm.
They put their resources out in football first than anything else. Yes, some of y'all may be new to this, but they built a new practice facility for basketball. That's a plus. But they're trying to redo the arena, but the arena is like the oldest in the ACC. It was built in, I think, in 1972, 73.
Okay.
That's old. Very old. And, to build a new one, it costs a lot of money. You got to get people investing on that good stuff. And then you probably have to spend a couple of years playing in Birmingham until you get that arena built.
Mm-hmm.
But with Oates, if you're Oates, yeah, the practice facility is nice, but if I need other things, money and stuff like that, am I going to get it from this group of folks?
Think too, like, is he going to be able to recruit at North Carolina like he can at Alabama?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. He get top players there. He got, kid from Huntsville, Alabama here, committed to Arizona, but he was in the running with him. But I think he just went to Arizona because of NIL.
Okay.
And we know North Carolina is a basketball school.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious. Like, how good of a recruiter is he?
He's
okay.
Very, very elite. Once he got things rooted and stuff like that, and help, he had guys like Petway to kind of help keep some of the kids in the state. And then, once he got his bearings, and then now,
Mm-hmm.
he brings the staff along, all that stuff, logistically, all that stuff. So he can recruit. You recruit with the best of them. Right now, this class he got right now is a top 10 class right now.
Yeah.
So, wherever they do in the transfer portal, if he stays, going to go a long way with this team. So he can recruit and whatnot. And I think if we'll see what happens a couple days, we'll see. But he'll get the resources in North Carolina. Got a nice arena, practice facility, probably not one of the nicest in the country. I think the big requirement for them You got to beat Duke's ass every year.
Yeah.
Beat Duke's ass and advance deep in the tournament, in which he has shown since he got to Alabama that he can get deep into the tournament. He took Alabama to their first Final Four a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 38. That was 2 years ago. I'm 36. That's the first time they've been to the Final Four. Like Nebraska, when it has, winning a couple games at NCAA Tournament. First couple wins ever in the NCAA Tournament, in which they could have maybe done that earlier if they kind of didn't, not put resources into the basketball program. So it can happen. We'll see.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna keep watching to see what. Obviously, you'll see what Bama does tonight. Getting a win to advance to the Sweet 16 is just another notch in his belt that he can add to his resume. If that does come up for him to interview over at North Carolina. But yeah, that you're perfectly makes perfect sense what you're saying. Great fit, I think, and then go after and they want you in there to beat Duke and be the number one team in the state. So yeah, I like that move.
The only thing that may be a hiccup, and some of y'all probably listen to playback on this, and some of y'all Carolina fans, they like to stay within the family.
Right.
That's one thing about Carolina. They stay within the family for the most part.
Who's left that's part of the family that's still out there coaching?
That's a great question.
I honestly don't know. I mean, nobody that I know of that would come in and serve as a head coach. I think Brendan Haywood may have been doing some like assistant coaching. But I don't know. That's another point. Carolina's they're going to have a lot to deal with, I think, and some big choices to make over this summer. And if Duke goes on and wins the national championship, they're going to be really looking to overhaul down at Chapel Hill.
Let's see. Got Terry Rodriguez here. We're gonna do this. Hold on, get his thought. What's up, Terry? How you doing tonight, sir?
Doing good, Davidson. Happy to jump on.
Real quick before we go to our break here, and we'll talk about the number one seeds, and then we'll get out of here because Alabama game tips off here in a little while, and I want to be fully focused there.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts on potentially UNC letting go of Hubert Davis, and who do you see them going after if they let him go?
Well, I mean, that could be a potential thing happening. That could happen to Davis. I mean, you lost to an 11 seed, but where he would go, I mean, it all depends on which programs has the most enticing roster, the most promising roster for the future, and it also depends on pay. So I'm not entirely sure on that second part of the question, but I can definitely see that happening. But if they can't find anyone else, then I think you got to keep him on for a little bit, give him one more chance, and if he messes that up, then he's gone. Or translation, if he's skating on thin ice and he messes up, that ice is going to break.
Yeah, we're just discussing, possibly Nate Oates probably be the top name as like successful program winners in a Power 4 school.
Yep.
I can't think about anybody else, at the moment. Freddie brought up the St. Louis coach who was in the running for another job last year. He's another name that you can consider. Maybe the High Point coach who's had a good couple years of run in the NCAA tournament, but can you sell the fan base on that? Like, he's like, we're going to coach for High Point.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm still going to throw it out there as a long shot, and I don't know what the odds are, but yeah, Ryan Odom, maybe throw him in there. That'd be so fitting if he comes in and was to be the North Carolina coach after eliminating them in the tournament the previous year.
Yeah, Ryan Odom, yeah, who just got bounced by Tennessee. So it's going to be very interesting who they target. And like I said, Oates got a $10 million buyout out there like April 1st, I believe, something like that. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. So Mark, before we go to our first break, Mark is saying UNC goes out to Rick Barnes, which I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to get somebody younger.
Yeah.
You know, and then he said also they need a recruiter, a teacher, and developer.
Very true.
So I think one thing, the names we have throwing out about the North Carolina job, a lot of those guys has been nice recruiters, nice teachers, and developers of talent. But I think the Nate Oates one stick out because if you need someone to go toe to toe with John Shire in terms of recruiting and basketball play, I think Oates is going to be your guy.
Yeah, Jerry McNamara, he looked good in his coaching debut for Siena. Yep. Playing against Duke. Now that could be somebody that could be totally out of left field to maybe come in. Obviously, he played his college ball at Syracuse, but I mean, the way that he was able to game plan and he held Duke in check for 37 minutes of that game until Duke ended up pulling it out at the end. But maybe throw Jerry McNamara's name out there.
Jerry got the job at Syracuse earlier.
Oh, today. He did. Oh, he did.
So
okay.
I think they were in Brian Hodgson maybe, but he got the job at Providence. So Jerry, I think with this, I think he got some people got some money that like him. So
nice.
Him going to Syracuse and seemed like a fit.
Perfect.
So another young coach coming to the ACC, going to his alma mater, maybe can help uplift their program for where it's been for the past couple of years. So
yeah, I didn't see that. Sorry, I didn't see that earlier today. I've kind of been out of the loop, but yeah, well, okay. Getting hired on at Syracuse is huge. They got to rebuild that program.
So
did you guys name like maybe TJ Otzelberger of Iowa State? Even though he's on a little run of his own.
Maybe they bring in Jordan.
Oh, hell no.
He just won his fourth NASCAR race of the season already this year.
Might as well come back home.
And then Clem saying, he said he lives out Syracuse. Everybody loves a Jerry hire. So there we go. A former player, alumni, did a great job. First game against Syracuse. Against Duke, gets the Syracuse job. So if the fan base love it, I'm surprised Hodgson kind of turned it down to go to Providence, but I feel like the fan base loves it, and we'll see how that goes. But Terry, before we got the Iowa State coach, that's
what's up?
I think if I'm throw the scenario out here. If Oates get the North Carolina job, that'd be a domino effect. Maybe he gets hired at Alabama. Either him, maybe Antoine Petway, former alum, go to Alabama. But I think keep a pin on him because I think he's a domino effect somewhere. And we don't know, who else might be letting go, whatnot. Florida's making a comeback right now, only down by 4.
That's another name to watch for, Todd Golden, yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
If Florida wants to open up their pockets, then that would be, I could see him staying, but North Carolina would be such an enticing job.
Todd Golden. Would he leave Florida? Will Peeping Tom leave Florida? For those that don't know, and we talked about this last year, Todd Golden, according to the student newspaper down in Gainesville, was accused of DMing girls and stuff like that on Instagram and all that stuff.
Yep.
Being inappropriate. And also, I think to the point he hid in the bushes trying to follow one girl, if I believe correctly.
I think something like that, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So some of y'all probably say, Todd don't go name like that. Well, he did. Good thing that he won the championship last year to kind of make things kind of go away.
Or do you maybe North Carolina puts a Band-Aid on it just to get by for a few years, and then Dan Hurley, his contract is up at the end of 2030. I mean, that's the next like big name like coach that I could see probably out where he's currently at. Obviously, UConn, we'll see what they do. They should handle UCLA tonight, obviously, but yeah, that could be another one.
Yeah, I don't know. Dan turned down the Lakers job to stay at UConn. So I think Dan, he's in there long haul for UConn, my humble opinion. And I think his wife is like from that area too, Dan Hurley.
Okay.
So I don't, happy wife, happy life, that, quote. yeah, Marcus, yeah, that man was up in the DMs. Oh yeah, he was in the DMs.
Did you also throw this name out there, Scott Drew of Baylor?
I think that ship sailed.
Okay, then never mind.
I think in terms of him going somewhere else, I think that ship has sailed. If that would happen, I think it would happen like maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, Marcus. Yeah, he was in the bushes. Oh yeah.
Whatever happened to Shaka Smart?
Oh, he's at Marquette, and they had a below 500 year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
I think that stint in Texas, while it looked good, it didn't formulate, and I think he just wore it in place. I think that's
so.
more of his level. But I think he got shape up next year, or he may be out of job.
Yeah. Marquette was highly disappointing this year.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Hodgson coming in, Rick Pitino going to the Sweet 16. Creighton had a down year, but they're probably bounced back. You got Xavier as well in that conference. So, you can't, be busters in that conference. All right. We're going to take a quick break real quick. On the other side of things, we'll talk about the number one seeds. Can anybody stop them? Well, I was trying to do it, but can anyone stop the number one seeds throughout this tournament? But this is Fast Break here for Sports Radio. You read for all sports, and we catch you on the other side.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the broadcast here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with us here for Fast Break here for Ice West Radio, your league for sports. I'm joined by Freddie B, joined by Tim Rodriguez here for Ice West Radio. Talking tournament talk, talking where we're going right now with 8 minutes left in the game. You got number 8 or 9 Iowa. I got a cup from my TV, but they're up by 1 against number 1 Florida right now. Fellas, on y'all's bracket, how deep did y'all have Florida going?
I had Florida going to the Elite 8 and then losing to Houston.
Okay.
Same here.
Check my bracket real quick. Florida, I had you know what? I had them getting bounced by Vanderbilt in the Sweet 16. But now they'll be playing Nebraska, who kind of plays somewhat similar to Vanderbilt. But I think Vanderbilt got a little more size. But that's going to be interesting if they hang on and win. So that'd be an interesting match on the Sweet 16, Nebraska versus Florida, if Florida turns out to win this game. But, fellas, in the terms of the number 1 seeds, can anyone stop the number 1 seeds? We had Duke. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think all number 1 seeds are going to have their hands full in their Sweet 16 matchups. If Florida gets by, they're going to have a tough game with Nebraska. And I think Duke and St. John's is going to be a classic. And Arizona, Arkansas, what are we going to see out of that? That could be a great game. I think the weakest of all of them and probably the easiest shot to continue is going to be Michigan going up against either Bama or Texas Tech, whoever wins later tonight.
Your thoughts, Taryn?
Yeah, I mean, I feel any number one seed on any given night is definitely capable of being taken down. Like, we almost saw Duke lose to Siena until Siena just had a cold spell and Duke was able to pull through. I'm not entirely sold on Arizona, so I think they're most likely to be at risk of maybe losing in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Florida, I feel if they got to get past Iowa, because I'll also just say this, Iowa and Nebraska would feed a lot of families, because aren't those two like rivals in the Big Ten?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then Michigan, I know you're an Alabama fan, Davidson, but I could see Michigan just steamrolling either of these, either Bama or Texas Tech. So the number 1 seeds are definitely beatable. I think I like Duke and Michigan. If I had to pick 2 of the number 1 seeds to advance, I think those 2 are most likely to advance to the national championship.
I agree.
On a potential, and we'll see how tonight goes between Alabama and Texas Tech. If a potential Alabama-Michigan matchup, Michigan just got a lot of size over Alabama. And Alabama, the big man rotation is taking a hit for injuries. And they really got 2 big men in a sense, playing for them, Noah Williamson and Aiden Sherrill. And your Michigan, you got a lot of big men that you can rotate through, Maurer and all those guys. So that'll be like a matchup nightmare for Alabama in a sense. You got a lot of size right there. And as we've seen over the course of the season, like Florida, for example, just killed Alabama in that matchup. Size and all that stuff, just kind of bullying them and all that stuff, just killed them. So,
but yeah, again, like you mentioned before, like losing a game in the conference tournament or just prior to getting in can sometimes get your team, refocused and the same thing being tested at an earlier round. Florida won by 100. They won by nearly 59 points the other night.
They doubled them up.
Yeah. That was one of the biggest wins in tournament history. That was so obviously, to see this now they're up by 4 as I'm looking at the score. To be tested shows that fortitude that teams have to win. Florida's been in this position before, and you see the good teams that are battling adversity. They have what it takes to advance. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be an easy road for Florida to get to Final Four if they win this game, because they do have Nebraska. And then I'm scared about Houston and Illinois. Those two teams are teams that I think could end up getting to the Final Four. So Florida has multiple steps on their half of the bracket to get in. Michigan and Duke, I think, are the favorites on their side. And then I think we're going to be in for entertaining side with Arizona playing Arkansas, and then you got Purdue and Texas. Any four of those teams can go on a run, and they can make it to the Final Four as well. But I think Duke and Michigan are the two that are locked into a Final Four berth for a number 1 seed.
And speaking of Duke, they're 2-0 in the NCAA tournament, advancing to this first weekend with a close win over Siena and a blowout win over TCU. They're entering the Sweet 16 looking every bit like the number 1 overall seed. Y'all thoughts on Duke in the first weekend? Because I'll be honest, shenanigans were going on in that Siena game. Siena was up double digits. And then I think the one player for Siena, one of their better players, got hurt. And then things just kind of turned. No flagrant foul, intentional foul was called, no flagrant foul was called on that. And, Duke squeaked out the victory and whatnot. I know Marcus is going to say something on this. Okay. He said, stay hating on us. We need it. Is it hating, fellas, that, Duke shenanigans are back in the fold of things? What's y'all's take on Duke thus far in this weekend?
I'll start, and I'll say I think Duke needed that wake-up call. That might have been the biggest wake-up call they've had. I don't know if they've had too many clunker games like that or near clunker games, but I think maybe Duke better use that wake-up call from Siena to say we're the number 1 overall seed, but we're not invincible by any means. We have to take care of our business and not mess around and find out. And I thought they did a good job against TCU, albeit TCU, Ohio State. I don't know if Ohio State could have done any better, but honestly, Duke, I hope for their sake that close win against Siena just woke them up to the truth, because nothing's going to come easy for them. And with St. John's withstanding Kansas, even though they were up 14, I think, like you said, Davidson, this one's going to be a barn burner between Duke and St. John's. So I hope for Duke's sake, the Siena win was a wake-up call for them. They just can't mess around and find out going forward, because they've also got they could potentially get Michigan State in the Elite Eight as well, and that's going to be a real bloodbath.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Freddie.
Yeah, my last point before I got to take off for the night. Yeah, I think I like Duke. They were my tournament prediction to win the entire tournament. If they come out and start the game against St. John's like they did against Siena, it's good night. They're not coming back from a bad start. So Shire's got to get those guys going. The Boozer brothers, I think, are going to be ready to go. They got some footage, and but you can never count out a Rick Pitino team. And he's got so many tricks up his sleeve. We've seen it over the last 3 decades what he can do. It's a tough bracket down on the bottom half. You're going to have UConn most likely against Michigan State. And I think all those games are going to be good. I think Duke is just an overall better team, but they've got to come out strong to start that game. Because if not, like I said, there's a good chance they'll be going home.
Yeah, I look at it like this. John Shire, he's got to, after this weekend and stuff like that, he's got to circle the wagon a little bit. One thing that kind of stuck out to me this weekend about Duke, Markel Brown, when he talked to Tracy Wilson at halftime against Siena, I don't know if y'all saw this or not, but he said, we thought it was going to be a cakewalk going to this game. So now we know what it is, so we have to respond back. That's what he said at halftime against Siena. In this day and age, this ain't 1995, 2000, 2002, when you play 16 seed and you think you're going to cakewalk them. We're in the year 2026.
Mm-hmm.
The year 2026.
Yeah.
You can't say that against talent that's kind of spread out, like we talked about earlier about NIL transfer portal. You can't talk about schools like that can't have no talent.
Yeah.
Jerry McNair was a former player. He knows you gotta have talent. Granted, wherever you're at, well, he's going to Syracuse, but even at Siena, you gotta have talent to compete and win games.
Davidson, even on paper, if it looked like it was a for sure slam dunk win for Duke, win by 30, you don't want to you want to still go into each game thinking, you know what, we're here to do a job, and that job is to play a 40-minute game and dominate, regardless of who your opponent is. And to think that you're going to have a cakewalk, that's playing down to the competition, and that sometimes could be so detrimental. And they better not think that to St. John's, because they'll have another thing coming if they think that same thing.
Yeah, St. John's is like one of the more better non-Power 4 schools out there, and they are well coached. So Duke is going to have their hands full with St. John's in this next round.
Guys, I've got to take off for the rest of the night. I will catch the show on YouTube, and I'll do as many comments as I can. But keep up the great work, guys. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, sir, for hopping on.
Yep.
And that was Freddie B, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for him joining on the show. Taryn, as we speak right now, I was up on number one seed, Florida, 66-65, with 3:40 left in the game, with Iowa having the ball. And right now they're trying to drive our Florida playing good defense, and Iowa missed 3-pointer and fight for the rebound, and they called a foul on Florida. So I will be going to the line here. Real quick, Michigan, 2-0 in the NCAA Tournament, has advanced to the Sweet 16 with Coach Dusty May. They won both of their games by 20-plus points, looking every bit like a number one seed with the top-tier offense and balanced scoring. Your thoughts on Michigan thus far in the tournament?
Yeah, Michigan definitely looks like the real deal. I definitely think that they've handled two of their opponents well. I mean, the Howard opponent, Howard just barely got out of the first four, but the fact that they were able to get to the field of 64 is quite amazing. So Michigan took care of business there. And then St. Louis, that's a solid team that just decimated Georgia. So I think Michigan, they still know that they can improve on their game. And they know that Alabama, if Nate Oates does leave, they're going to want to send him off on a high note, or maybe even potentially want to keep him. And then Texas Tech is also solid as well. So I think Michigan, even though they were one of the teams that I picked to win the whole thing. I think they were the team that I picked to win the whole thing. I feel Michigan definitely has a little bit of a lighter path, because even no matter who gets out of Tennessee or Iowa State, like let's say Michigan does get out of their Sweet 16 match, I think no matter who gets out of Tennessee, Iowa State, I think Michigan will probably win that one, because Iowa State is banged up, and then Tennessee, I mean, it's great that they have a nice little like semi-Cinderella run going, but I still don't trust them as far as I can throw them. So I feel Michigan, this is their Final Four ticket to lose.
Yeah, it's starting to look that way, where they style play and whatnot. Them beating Howard, 101-80. I kind of wish the HBCUs kind of had a better draw in the tournament instead of seeing the 16 seeds and stuff like that. But I think hopefully in time that will change how they do the seeding in the tournament. And then beating St. Louis the way they did, especially in the second half, was a good masterclass how you play basketball. So, and then that's after St. Louis is beat down Georgia, which me and D-Locke, we talked in the chat. He said he was surprised that Georgia got beat like this. Like, if one game was a guarantee on a bracket, that was one for me, St. Louis and Georgia, because Mike White, he's okay as a coach, but he's not a guy. He's not a championship type of coach. And Georgia's kind of been like a program that's kind of should be better with their resources and location in the state of Georgia, outside Atlanta, not too far from got North the Carolinas and stuff like that, Florida. You can poke into Alabama to get some players, and it's just like a program that's not really elevated itself. And then grabbing Mike White after he left Florida, I don't think it's not like a bad move, but it's not going to get you to a championship, in my opinion. Yeah, so I'm not one surprised that results, and I'm one surprised, St. Louis been, and then Michigan just kind of handled St. Louis, especially in that second half. And then I think Florida's back up by 3 right now. And talk about Florida real quick.
Yeah,
they 1-0. They beat down Prairie View, in which I gotta say this, Taryn. So I know you're not too familiar with the HBCUs, but a lot of these schools don't recruit a lot of size. And I think I told you, I was like, some of these HBCUs, they got to recruit some size. Having the 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" guys is cool for conference, but I think if you got a little bit higher aspirations, stuff like that, you got to get some size in there.
Mm-hmm.
And when they played Florida, it showed.
Yeah, this one was basically David versus Goliath, and only big thing is that Goliath was just ran rampant all over Prairie View. Like, if there was ever a gimme game where you had a freebie, or if any game was a freebie, that would probably be the closest thing. And with all due respect to Prairie View, I mean, God bless them for getting past Lehigh in the first 4 match, but you already knew what they got themselves into. So, I mean, it's good that they wound up winning an NCAA tournament game, albeit it was a first 4 match. But let's be honest, Florida was just Florida that match.
And right now, ladies and gentlemen, Florida is up by 1 with 2 minutes left to go against Iowa. And down they back up 3 after the layup right there by the Gator guard. So let's see what Iowa's going to do in this possession. They can get a quick 2 and still be all right, but a 3 will tie the game. And nice cut and dribble into traffic, and Florida got the ball back with 1:35 with up by 3.
Danger zone time.
If you're Iowa, you just got to play strong. Just stay in front. Five seconds left in the shot clock. Nice drive and lost the ball. And no, they say tipped by Iowa. Real quick, Arizona is playing Utah State. They're up by 9.5. What is Arizona's odds of you making to the Final Four?
I mean, their path is actually right there. I mean, Arkansas, if they can get past Arkansas, and I'd say it's a reasonable path. I mean, Purdue is still going to be up there. I think I have Purdue advancing to the Final Four. I'd give Arizona a 56% chance of advancing to the Final Four, but Purdue is the biggest threat to them. But it would have to get past Arkansas as well, and we all know what Arkansas did last year in terms of beating St. John's. So I think it's a decent chance, but if they get the Purdue that has just been solid, and they wound up making it to the Big Ten championship, and I think they wound up winning the whole thing. I think that could be the thing that stays in the way of Arizona.
I think they should pull it out. Arizona is kind of like a hot team in the beginning of the year. Like, very hot play. I mean, they're still very consistent throughout the year, but they were like smoking hot. Like, damn, could anybody compete with them? Koa Pete, was very phenomenal. You talking about him, not as the first overall pick, but at least top 5 pick. going to the draft. I think that talk has kind of cooled off. Now, they kind of level a little bit. They up now against a tough Utah State team, but they should pull that matchup. They should pull through in that matchup. To me, who I got? To me, Arkansas, who's barely skated by High Point yesterday. So I think if Arizona can squeak by, Utah State, I think they'll go a long way in their chances to make it to the Final Four. Where Arkansas, I think it'll be your last hiccup because Acuff can score the best with them. But I got Arizona going to the Final Four in my eyes right here. So did we touch on all the number 1 seeds for the most part?
Yeah, we talked Michigan, Florida, Arizona, and we did talk about Duke.
So yeah, we all touched the number 1 seeds, just kind of watching this Iowa and Florida game in real time, in which Iowa's challenging the ball, the out of bounds call, in which the Florida player, they showed a replay multiple times, the Florida player just lost on the layup, and we're about to get it right now. So the call got reversed. So it would be Iowa ball with 1:10 left to go in the game. So he just lost the ball. Yeah. He got scared and lost the ball on that matchup. Taryn, nice to have you on the show. Who do you got winning the championship in the NCAA tournament in the men's side?
I have Michigan winning the whole thing. I think Michigan this is probably their most deepest team that they've had in a minute. And I just think that it's pretty much all for them. I think but the only thing that's in their way and the only team that could beat them is themselves. But I think for Michigan, they have a really good chance. And I imagine they'll face Duke. I mean, I think Arizona definitely has a good chance, but I feel that Purdue will just overcome Arizona. And then I have Houston advancing to the Final Four, but I just think Michigan has the team built for this moment. So I'll take the Wolverines.
I got Duke winning because I think, while I stated on last week's show, I think John Shire, he's been here at Elite 8, Final Four. Now can he finish the cuffs and win the championship? And Iowa, oh, God, that's a bad shot. Iowa had a chance to take the lead, and they just threw a bad damn shot. A lot of bad shots over the weekend. Like High Point against Arkansas, I don't know if you watched that game or not, but I think they shot themselves in the foot in that game. It's like they get the defensive rebound. Talking about High Point, Arkansas, they get down and then like one of the guards for High Point just throw a quick 3-pointer, barely into the shot clock, and you miss. Like, run your set, run the offense. Get Darius Acuff in pick and roll situations because he don't want to play defense. Just bad basketball in certain points in that second half by High Point that kind of really, I'll be honest, kind of cost him the game, the shot selection. And then here, Florida's at the line, 9 seconds left, 8.9 seconds being technical. Florida player missed a free throw. They're up by 1. Okay, now you're up by 2. So you got a chance to tie if you're Iowa. They take a timeout. We're going to stay through this game before we head out for the show and see what happens there. I know you're a SoCal guy. UCLA, UConn. Who do you got in that matchup there as it going on right now?
I have UConn. Look, UCLA making it to the round of 32 was great. I actually doubted that UCLA would beat UCF, but I think UCLA, even though they're banged up, they still have I wouldn't say good chance. I mean, look, I think UCLA they're a solid team. I know Mick Cronin's been all over the place this season, but
Sure.
I'm just gonna say I think this is where the train stops for UCLA. I mean, if they make it to the Sweet 16, then good for them, and they'll be facing a familiar Big Ten foe. But they'll have to play great basketball all match long or all game long. So I have UConn, but if UCLA UCLA is playing with house money here, but I just don't see how UConn loses this one.
Yeah, Mick Cronin, like you mentioned, he's all over the place, doing Mick Cronin things, throwing guys under a bus, stuff like that. It's just like, he'll probably be there another year. But, we talking about this last week. Everybody got this fascination with dudes wearing suits again in college basketball or basketball in general. The guy shows leadership, all that. This guy's got where, hold on. I got the ball and they inbounding. They got the ball in. Oh, they driving. They're going for the three. Oh, he made it. Oh. The Irish player made it.
Oh, my
73-72.
God. Dude.
Oh. Wow. Who was that? Who's that player? Number 7. I'm trying to give him credit. For those that don't know, I wear glasses, but I don't wear them for the show because it reflects on the screen, all that stuff. So I can't really see the TV I got in front of me. Alvaro Figueres. He made a 3-pointer to put Iowa up by 1. So Iowa, and to make sure 3-point, his foot beyond the line. So Iowa up by 1. Against the Florida Gators. And the Gators got 3.9 seconds to either get 3-point shot off or get the ball court fast as you can, or they changed it to 4.5 seconds. So if you're Todd Golden, Taryn, how do you set up your final play to kind of win this game?
Well, you gotta get a smart shot, and you have to get open, and you can't turn the ball over. So I think you just gotta go for the best possible look. If not, try a driving layup, and then maybe see if you can get 2 free throws. Like, even if you have to go overtime, you gotta find a way to win. And honestly, I think for Florida, it's basically do or die. You gotta find your open player. You gotta give it to your best player and find it to the best luck.
So we'll see. Iowa took a timeout right here. Do they look for Bland to do something? Do they look for Conan to do something? Do they look for Xavier Lee to do something? Flan only had has only had 7 points thus far in this game.
Any chance could be down after the second round.
And you're talking about a Florida team that a lot of people had good odds to repeat again. Yes, they lost William Clayton to the graduation and to the draft, but they kind of rebounded well. Damn, look at that damn face. Damn, those slices for Florida, boy, they sick. I know D-Lock's sick if he's watching. But you're talking about a Florida team that had a good chance to repeat. A lot of people had Florida repeating. Very strong year. Granted they didn't win the SEC tournament, but still a strong year for them. All right, Florida's about to inbound right now. They get the ball in. They went to Lee. He's driving. Got to get a shot off. What are you doing? Didn't get a shot off.
What just happened?
You got to get the shot off.
The guy that just made the go-ahead basket just also had the game-winning stop. You can't script this. So that's how it ends for Florida.
So down
Alvaro
goes, how about,
Foguleris.
well, let's talk about this. Game one, stop the number one seeds. Iowa just did. All right,
Nebraska, Iowa's going to feed a lot of families.
All right, they driving. Should just went off the layup. I don't know what Xavier Lee's looking at. Like he's trying. Like, come on, you have 4 seconds to drive from outside the court to do something, and your best option was to dump off to the post. If you get the block shot on the layup, at least you tip the shot. Tip the shot. That's just sometimes basketball players kill me.
So Alvaro Folgueras. That's how it's pronounced. Alvaro Folgueras, by the way.
Well, he had the game-winning shot for Iowa, and they win. And like you said,
and he had to get game-winning stop too. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And they play arch rival Nebraska in the next round.
Like I said, that's going to feed a lot of families.
So that's going to be a very interesting matchup to kind of keep up during the week. Because there's going to be a lot of crap talking and all that stuff and that going leading up to that matchup.
Yep.
Wow.
And Nebraska's fans travel well. I'm surprised people were wondering why Nebraska fans traveled so well, because they have a passionate fan base. I mean, as someone who covers some Nebraska volleyball, their fan base is very passionate, and they travel well no matter where it is, whether it's in the East Coast or the West Coast or anything of that sort. So I'm not surprised that people are saying that I'm not surprised that Nebraska's fan base just traveled well. What I'm more surprised of is that everyone is saying, why does Nebraska have such a big fan base? Because they're all passionate about their sports.
They are. Before we got I'll just say this about Nebraska basketball. I'm not saying they won a tournament the game a long time ago or whatever. But I think, not investing into the basketball program like they should, not having the right coaching staff or head coach in place, played a lot of factors in that. I was out there from 2003 to close to 2007. And went to high school at Bellevue West. Top tier program in the state of Nebraska in terms of basketball, football, volleyball. All right. Guys I went to school with probably should have had offers. Well, probably should have went to NU. But what they failed to do is kind of to keep the in-state talent in state. Some of the guys went to lower level like UNO, University of Nebraska, Omaha. But one thing that kind of hurt them along the way, Dana Altman was the coach at Creighton at that time period.
Mm-hmm.
And some of y'all don't know, Dana Altman was a coach a long time at Creighton. And what he did, he snuck his hands in the grassroots of a lot of kids in there. Offering guys, scholarships around 7th, 8th grade, building that trust. And so by the time they're in high school, and you're talking to them every day or whatever, or every once a day a week, you got them in the program. Top kids in the state. While Nebraska, you recruiting out here and out there, all that stuff, and you barely had anything to show for it. While Dana Altman built success, and continued with Doug McDermott come from North Iowa to Creighton. You kept that success going. Now you get to Fred Hoiberg, Now you got that success going. Now you got NIL and transfer portal in play. But a point still stands. You could have maybe negated this a long time ago because a lot of talented guys in the state of Nebraska, Taryn, maybe should have went to NIU. Matt Hill, top player of the state, my graduating class. He went to Texas. That same recruiting class with Kevin Durant, DJ Augustine. You know, he had guys like leaving the state. Antoine Young, who's an assistant coach at High Point with the high school with. He went to Creighton, but he got an early offer around 7th grade. And then in his Final Four, before we get out here, he had like Kansas, Georgia Tech looking at him. Nebraska nowhere in sight. So, congratulations, Nebraska. Hey, happy for them. The fans should be happy. But as we talked about earlier in the show, about some of these football schools being football schools, if you don't show support or put a little seed to the other sports, it's going to be left in neglect for years to come. But before I turn, any final thoughts for you over the first weekend of the tournament?
Well, Iowa was probably the most impressive of all of the teams in terms of pulling off upsets. They pulled off 2 upsets. I mean, do we really consider the Clemson upset an upset? Probably. I mean, 8-9 can go either way, but I knew Iowa was going to pull off that one just because them being in the Big Ten just really prepared them. And I don't think anyone gave Iowa the respect it truly deserved. And the Big Ten is definitely a bloodbath. And for them to pull off that upset was just remarkable right there. So, and then you can't forget about Texas. Like Texas, who had Texas advancing to the Sweet 16? I knew they would get past the round of 64 just because BYU probably was the most fraudulent team in the field. But for them to get past Gonzaga, I know Gonzaga can't win the whole thing, but man, to lose in the round of 32 to a first 4 team, woof. So Texas-Purdue is going to be interesting. I mean, I still think Purdue has a good shot making the Final Four, but we'll have to wait and see. I think we had a lot of good. It's officially March, ladies and gentlemen. Texas. So yeah, Texas, Iowa really impressed me this week.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So this has been our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in with us here tonight. Terry, how can people find your social media?
You can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at TerranRodriguez1. That's where I'm mostly active.
All right, y'all heard the man. Also, do check out our page, Fast Break IESR. That's Fast Break IESR. Do follow D-Locke at Black-813. That's Black-813. Follow me at Spawn4288. That's my personal Twitter account handle. Also, do follow iTunes Radio on all your social media feeds. X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. On a race for 1K. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Once we go live every Sunday, hit that bell notification. Once we go live, get the notification, hop in, say hi, talk to us about basketball. But tune in, ladies and gentlemen. Next week, we'll have tournament talk. Also, the NBA winding down as well. The Lakers on the hot streak. Houston trying to find their way. Detroit's out Kate Cunningham. So a lot to talk about the NBA and world basketball. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in with us, rocking with us. I got to catch the Alabama game. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.
Peace.